We'll start from the beginning really quickly. Thank you guys so much for being here today. I know we're getting really close to Christmas, but very excited. Again, we're going to be diving into 6 tips to help you live a successful life. So ultimately, when we're going through this, guys, I don't necessarily want you to try to take everything that we're talking about here. I'm just asking, can you just take one thing? Can you take one thing from these 6 tips and implement it today? Okay. So, really quickly, because we have a more intimate group here, I'll share this quote and then I would love to hear both of your definitions on a successful life. Success is not the key to happiness. Happiness is the key to success. If you love what you are doing, you will be successful. So, hearing this from Herman Cain, I'm curious, how would you guys define a successful life for you?
Well, for sure, for me, I mean, I definitely relate to this quote. I love it. Thank you for sharing it. For me, success is not something to achieve. It's not something to get to. It's not something in the future. Success is to be had in almost every moment.
Mm,
So it's just like happiness is the key to success. Happiness is available at every moment.
mm-hmm.
And if I'm happy in every moment, then I'm successful. If you love what you're doing, which is happiness, right, you'll be successful if you're successful at every moment. So it's not something to be achieved later on, it's something to achieve in the moment. Happiness and joy. So I just go a little bit more than happiness because, I always go a little bit more on the consciousness scale. Happiness is pretty good, but I want joy.
I love
I
it.
want peace. I want love. And so that all of that is accessible in every moment. And a successful life is one where I find joy in every moment, no matter how much pain I've just been through, there's still joy available. How's
Amazing
that?
perspective shift. No, that's fantastic, Bob. I have a note based on what you said, but I'll pass it to Matt first, and then we'll consolidate. So, Matt, I'd love to hear what is your definition of a successful life for you.
Well, unfortunately, and happiness has eluded me to an abundance in my life. Have I had moments of happiness? Yes. Have I channeled Pharrell Williams and Despicable Me and the Happy Song? Absolutely. But it hasn't been there as much as I want to be, and I'm still working on that. And so, for example, like perfect example, like me being here in Virginia, being in my brother's house, seeing him after a whole year, that was an example of happiness
Amazing.
because I missed my brother and to spend time with him.
Good.
So it's it to me, happiness is kind of like the life lottery, where you strive for it and you want to play, to the game to get it. So I'll find happiness in small moments, but not in consistent moments, and that's something I'm definitely in the process of working on.
Okay. I appreciate your transparency. So, so you've definitely found these moments of happiness throughout life. You're just looking to create them more consistently.
Correct.
Okay. Awesome. Awesome. Yeah. And Bob, again, I really loved your example. I think that, the thing that really stood out to me about what you said is, again, it's never about the end destination. It's about who you are becoming in the journey. And that's, in the present moment, that's where all the value is and all the gold. And you also reminded me, both of you guys reminded me of a story that I've referenced before, but you know, your definition of a successful life is your definition. Nobody else can tell you, hey, you're successful or not successful. That's up to you to determine. So the example or the story that I like to share with a lot of people is, look, let's take 2 people as an example. Okay. And let's say one of the individuals, and we'll say these are both men just for sake of argument, we're all men on this call. So let's say that one of the men says, hey, look, I want to go buy a house on the top of a mountain and I'm going to start a bunny farm. And I'm just going to homestead up on the top of the mountain with my little bunny farm. And that's all I want to do. And this man takes steps, puts a plan together, a timeline, and starts contributing to build this. Fast forward 5 years later, he builds his dream. He's on the top of the mountain. He's got his little bunny farm. He's homesteading. Is this man successful by his own definition? Yes or no?
He is.
Yeah, 100%. He hit his goals. Now, let's take another example. Let's say that there is another male, and this male wants to be the next Elon Musk. And he talks about this all day, every day. He says, hey, I'm going to be the next Elon Musk. But he doesn't do anything about it. He just talks about it all the time. He doesn't put a plan in place. He doesn't have a timeline, but he's got this amazing goal. Neither of these people are right or wrong, right? Because the point is that their definition is their definition. But the first individual, even though he's just looking to have a bunny farm on top of a mountain in Homestead, he's created a plan, has action steps, and has done it. He is successful by his definition. Whereas some people in society today might say, oh, wow, the next Elon Musk, that sounds really amazing. I bet you'll help the lives of millions. But he doesn't do anything about it. So he's not really successful. So anyway, I wanted to share that with you because these 6 tips are going to help you to build this happiness, this joy sustainably throughout your life. So what we'll do is there's only 6. We'll do 1, stop. I would love to hear your guys' thoughts, feedback, and then we'll do the next one. Each one of these has a quick exercise. So I do recommend that you take a couple minutes to jot this down because it will be a tool that you can use when you need to seek that happiness or joy. Okay. So let's dive in. You guys have anything before we jump in?
You have used the bunny farm example before, Keegan.
Yes.
However, the reason why the bunny farm was successful is because he hopped to it.
Well played. Well played, Matt. He was ready for that one. All right. So these are the 6 tips that are going to help people regardless of where they are on their journey right now, right? This is going to help you maintain that joy or happiness. So really quickly, when we talk about community or circle of influence, I want to share a concept with you. Character is something that helps all of us create our own definition of happiness or joy. Our character is a massive metric in that definition. Because, for example, those 2 examples I gave you, well, the one guy wanted to be an entrepreneur. He wanted to be a successful business owner. A lot of his character leads to that. So the truth about character in people is that if you're unsure of your characteristics or character traits, the best thing you can do is look at the top people in your circle of influence right now. You can say, what character trait would I attribute to them? And if I got on a call with them and asked them what my number 1 trait is, what would they say? Mm-hmm. So that's 2 really good ways that you can help siphon down your character traits. Now, the other part to this is that the people that surround us, we will become. I've heard this statistic before, and I haven't really found a way to prove it, but Tony Robbins has said this. A lot of people have said this. Andy Frisella. Basically, if you were to look at your circle of influence, the people that are closest to you, you will earn within $1,000 to $3,000 a month of what they earn. Yeah. And I thought that was really interesting because sometimes we support people in our circle for certain reasons that don't actually contribute to the big picture. For example, I used to have this friend that was, when I was younger and less mature, I loved this guy because no matter what was going on, he would always boost the ego. He would always tell you what you wanted to hear. You could mess up in work or sports, and he'd be, hey, man, don't worry about it. You're amazing at this, this, and this. And it felt really good in the moment. But long term, as I matured, I realized it didn't actually help me to grow. And so even though it felt good in the moment, long term, it wasn't helping me to become a better person. So again, the people that you surround yourself with are critical. So what I would challenge you guys to do in the action step on this is jot down the top influencers in your life right now. Now, these may be a combination of personal and professional. There's no right or wrong answer here. Whatever is true to your life, that's what you want to jot down. But when you do this, come back later today and look at these names and see what stands out. You know, do these people fire you up and invigorate you? Do they help you to grow your happiness and joy? Or do they detract from that? Are they energy vampires? So you guys are both two super intelligent guys. I'd love to hear what thoughts or feedback or questions or comments you have on this one, on community and circle of influence. And you might say nothing. That's perfectly fine too.
Well, you know, I'm not going to say nothing. So as I'm going through this too, I want to go back to the first thing, which was, you know, what's your definition of success? And even though I said happiness and joy is certainly the ingredient, and I love the way you talked about these 5 people, which ones are bringing you happiness and joy, or which ones are supporting your happiness and joy, if you will, or supporting you in that endeavor. I want to go back to saying, you know, there is some value also, especially in a group like this, to talk about success in external factors, such as, you know, the next promotion,
Yeah,
more money, a better car, a better home to live in, more food on the table, helping more people. You know, those are definitions of success which get away from the, you know, the internal self-development type of thing, which is very important also. You know, I think the happiness is the foundation to a happy life, but success is defined by external things also. And with that, you make me think about it. That quote about, you know, the people that you surround yourself with is about as high as you're going to go. You're going to go within a couple of $1,000 of whatever they're making. It's very true. Whatever they're making, whatever their education is, whatever their way of life is, you're going to be, you know, the people you're surrounded with are the ones that you are going to be rolling with. You're not going to be rolling too
100%.
far outside of that. In terms of, you know, the places where they live, the food that they eat, the exercise that they do, the money that they make, I think it's all very important too. So we might want to think about, and anybody listening to this now, also think about it in those terms, because, you know, I have those measures of success also in terms of money and car that I drive and people that I influence. They're just as important.
Yeah, no, again,
That's just what came to mind as you were talking.
no, you're absolutely right. I think that the differentiating factor, I mean, everything you said was spot on. The differentiating factor is that we just want to, it's kind of like that Pareto principle or the past, present, future concept that I've shared with you guys before about 10% in the past, 80% in the present, 10 in the future.
Yeah.
What I'm saying to you guys is that we don't want to get destination sickness. Right. And I see a lot of people do this. So an example of this is, you know, I just gave you the breakdown, 10, 80, 10. That is a percentage of time allocation spent in those areas. Destination sickness would be, I'm spending more percentage on focusing or hyper-focusing on the future. That could be 15%, it could be 20%. And if you get too caught on the future, then you get distracted from being in the present moment. So to Bob's point, yeah, you're spot on. You know, these things are all contributable factors, and we do need to have something that pulls us to the future. It's such a psychological trick, the carrot in front of the horse. But we don't want to hyper focus on that to the point where we deter our present.
Well, and just what you're saying, you know, you're bringing it all together perfectly for me. So I want to still have the external and future goals of success.
Yes.
But that shouldn't take away from my ability to be happy in the moment. Like I could be happy on my way to getting to owning a Bentley. Whether I own a Bentley or not is not important. It's still a goal. It's still what I work towards. But my happiness is not, I'm going to suffer until I get the Bentley.
That's right.
No, I'm going to be happy along the way.
That's right.
So that guy who went for Elon Musk, you know, wanted to be like Elon Musk and knew nothing about it, if he was happy along the way, was he successful?
Yeah,
That's another good question.
that's
And
a
the
really
other
good
guy who
point.
got his bunny farm but suffered all the way, sacrificed, gave up family and friends, mortgaged everything or whatever, I don't know, somehow is he successful just because he made the bunny farm? It's somehow is a combination of both.
You're so
What is
right.
your state of being as you're going towards your goals? What's your state of being? Is it happy or is it miserable?
Yeah,
And
no, you're so right.
more
And I
important
think
to, right?
it's
You're
almost
making me
like
think about
you don't want to use that end
that.
destination as a metric for your
Right,
happiness, but it's
right.
absolutely a part of the puzzle to measure you
Yeah,
know your wherewithal, to measure what your energy and effort was, however you want to say it, you know.
yeah,
So yeah,
yeah.
I
It's
love
a
that. I also
motivator. It's for me, what you're saying is it's a motivator for me in the moment. Like,
yeah,
what do I want to do today? Well, I want to do something that gets me closer to buying a house. Or I
yep,
want to do something today that gets me closer to getting a promotion. Whether I
boom,
get it or not is irrelevant to my happiness in a sense, but it's a motivator for me to do something today. What am I going to do today? I'm going to
1%
do
better.
something on my way to, and I'm going to find joy and happiness in doing whatever I'm doing on my way to this journey.
Hmm. Yeah, and there's also a big concept of short term versus long term that you mentioned. It's like, you know,
Yeah,
in your particular example, was the suffering of achieving this accolade worth it? Well, for
right,
example, let's say that this guy had to make a lot of sacrifices to buy the house on the top of the mountain. You know, how
right,
long did he have to make those sacrifices? Did he make the sacrifices
right.
for 10 days? Was it 5 years? Was it a decade?
Yeah,
You know, because
yeah.
that's a part to the puzzle. If he only had to sacrifice
Well,
you know, and work his butt off for a year or two, but then he had this farm and this lifestyle for the rest of his life, that's a huge difference. Or
and now
did he
you,
spend 50
yes,
years to get to that point and then got to enjoy
no.
it for two?
Well, and there you just brought up something else that just is like, because you're making a sacrifice doesn't mean you're not going to be happy. You're going to have to suffer. Sacrifice isn't always suffering.
Right.
Sacrifice is giving something up and being joyful about giving that up because I know it's
Mm.
good for me to give it up, or I know it's good for me for a future endeavor, if you will. So the sacrifice sometimes doesn't have to be suffering. It could be, you could still find joy in your sacrifice.
I love it.
Isn't
I
it?
love it.
You know?
Awesome
I don't know.
stuff,
What does
guys.
Matt think? I always like to hear what Matt thinks.
Well, this for me is a very intriguing topic because sustained happiness in my life has always eluded me. It's been almost like a roller coaster or like an
Yeah.
orgasm happiness where it comes and it goes. And so, like the ebb and flow, so to speak.
Yeah.
And so for me, like for example, like with the top five people, those people actually make a lot more than me. So the disparity of the financial stability or net worth is dramatically fluctuating, but yet those people are still influences in my life nevertheless.
Mhm.
So it really just varies, who it is and what it is. But I think that one of the things that I've been trying to work on is having more levels of happiness, but also, as you mentioned, like Bob, getting with the sacrificing, with the positive and negative sacrificing, it's getting rid of people that are not conducive to me,
Mm,
and
Absolutely.
or vice versa. And
mm,
so sometimes you have to have an Elsa from Frozen moment and just let it go. And I get that. And
mm,
so it's quality, not quantity.
mm-hmm.
And that's something that I've really have worked on in my 2022.
I
That's right.
love it, man.
You know,
Go
yeah,
ahead,
me
Bob.
too. And as you talk about that too, I mean, me finding my happiness is a constant,
Yep.
um, a constant journey, right? My happiness doesn't just happen. I have to find it, and it's a constant roller coaster, like you said. I,
Mhm.
I, I've learned to shorten the periods between up and down, but I'm not absent. I'm recognizing that I don't want to be absent of the downs
Right.
because that's a big part of
Part of the
it.
journey. Yep.
But I want to shorten the length of time that I'm down, and I want to learn quickly what it is that brings me down to bring me back up to happiness. It's a continuous loop. You're absolutely right. I
Yeah.
love that roller coaster. It's
Yeah. And
continuous.
go ahead.
Oh yeah, well, from somebody who suffers from anxiety and depression, you're always looking for that holy grail, and it's not Monty Python or Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. So you want that happiness because it eludes you, but also it's finding other people or situations or work that will allow you to have more sustained happiness. So no one person is their own island in that respect, and you just can't do anything and survive on your own. You need that support system, but having that support system that is going to be not just conducive to you, but you to them as well is the key. And so, what are you doing in your life where you're putting certain procedures or people in place to sustain that happiness? So the happiness is an engine, and you got to give it, the proverbial gas or energy for it to keep going on.
I love it.
Perfectly said.
So two last things, and then we're gonna have to shift because we'll be stuck here in this section for a while. So two things, based on what you were sharing there, Matt, I really love this concept of the really cool thing as we mature. I'll put it to you like this: when we were all little boys and we were growing up, we didn't really have a whole lot of control around our circle, right? Our parents or our whoever raised us was responsible for that. They took us to and from. They brought people around. They invited people over, whatever that is. We had zero control over that, and in most cases, we couldn't even speak to voice that we didn't like those people if we wanted to. The cool part is, as we get older and as we mature, we have full control over this. We can bring anybody we want into our lives. I mean, shoot, I had the opportunity to work with Tony Robbins. I mean, yeah, I had to give up a lot of resources to get that interaction. But the point is, we can put whoever we want in our circle, and we can remove whoever we want from our circle like that. It takes a conversation. So if you're not around people that are firing you up, that are invigorating you, that are supporting you and pushing towards your goals, you got to do a circle audit. You got to say, does this person help me, and do I help them? Like you were saying, Matt, we both bring something to the table. It's not just them for us, but also us for them. And the other thing that you said, and then we'll go to the next one. But the other thing you said, Matt, is that in my experience, man, and I've been riddled with this my whole life. If we are ever in the realm of depression or ever in the realm of anxiety, the solution for this is we need to be more present. And that goes back to that 10-80-10 rule, right? What you'll see is that sometimes we give too much energy to the past, which creates that depression, or we give too much energy to the future, which creates that anxiety. And in order to mitigate those two things, we need to find a way to pull ourselves more into the present. So that's a whole different topic, but let's put a pin in that. So next one, and then I'll pass it back to you guys. Next one, we don't really need to belabor this one. The three of us have talked about this significantly, but the point is that every single person has a routine. I've got this kid that I've kind of been a mentor to. We met years ago. He just turned 21. He's a younger guy. And we were on the phone yesterday, and he told me that, he's been really protecting his morning routine. He started running in the morning. He's doing audio tapes and reading. And these are the things that I personally know will take him to the next level, because that's what pulled me out of the dark places, was to have that morning routine that made me a better version of myself, which then enabled me to get better results. And again, that goes back to our definition of success. Our morning routine is our morning routine, but analyze this and see, does this make me a better version of me? Does this get me up? Like one of the things that Bob does, or I know you've done this in the past, I'm not sure if you still are, but walking in the morning, right? Like that is a part of the morning routine. And guess what? That helps on health and partially personal development.
Yeah.
So, that's one small example of something that in your morning routine is going to help you to achieve your success. Now, this is one of the categories that is not an immediate thing. And so Bob earlier brought up the concept of short-term versus long-term. What we have to understand in the morning routine, this is a long-term play. It might help get us the right mindset to achieve this day, but these three things are not 100% going to create your happiness throughout the day, but they definitely will contribute. If you do these three categories in the morning, you're definitely increasing your chance for a successful, joyful day. Right. So I know we've talked about this a lot. I'm really curious to hear what your guys' thoughts and feedback are on the concept of the morning routine.
Go ahead, Matt.
All right. Well, for me, the morning routine can vary because, for example, like I'm on technically, workcation at this point. So I'm in Virginia. My morning routine is not going to be normal for, the next couple of days. But in when I'm, back in Florida, obviously I have certain things that have to get done. Either I have Zooms or other chores that have to get done. So those are the things that, I looked at. And as we discussed in the last group, reflection of the night before and what has transpired helps get me to the morning in terms of what I need to do and where I need to be.
Love it, man. Short and sweet. Yeah, 100%.
The other thing I think, yeah, the other thing I think about the morning routine is it's essential.
Mm-hmm.
And that if I track the parts of my life when I treat these as non-negotiable, I am going to take the walk, I am going to spend time in spirit, and I'm going to do something today to help develop myself personally. And it's non-negotiable. I'm going to do this. It doesn't necessarily bring you the success, like you said, or the happiness, but it sets a foundation that makes it possible for all of the success to happen. Without it, it's a struggle. Without it, without this morning routine, it's more difficult to do everything else I have to do in my life.
Totally.
But I have to make it a non-negotiable. There's no negotiation here, Bob. You're going to get up and you're going to walk for 30 minutes. You're going to spend some time in, thinking about your spirituality and your existence, and you're going to do something today, to learn something new,
Yep.
or do some self-development. And it's non-negotiable. It's like not something that I can play around with, because I know it's an investment for a foundation for bringing everything else that I want.
That's gold. The foundation element. That's such gold, because,
Right.
One of the notes that I just put down for this is that, look, the routine, we all have a routine. It happens one way or another.
That's
Does your
right.
routine help you to create that success definition for you? That's all it comes down to. And oftentimes we need to do a serious audit here, because especially in December, when people are starting to take the foot off the gas pedal, it's like, I get it. I'm there with you, but is your routine contributing or is it not? Because we all have a routine. Everybody has one. It's just like gravity. It's always operating. But when you look at your success definition, does your routine currently contribute to it, or does it detract from it? And I can say this on a personal note. I know all of our morning routines, especially mine, could be slightly enhanced or just a tiny little thing added or reduced to drastically change the results for your day. One example of this is, years ago, I got caught up in the habit of, as soon as I would wake up, I would look at my phone, right? Email or social media or text or whatever it was. And then sometimes I would get caught in this loop of laying in bed for an extra 5 or 10 minutes. And it doesn't seem like a big deal, but I mean, man, if you do that for a month, you're talking hours. Now, if you do that for a year, you're talking days, literal days that you could have gotten a lot more accomplished, but instead you were contributing to something on your phone that does nothing for your life. So again, the morning routine is always there. Does it serve you or does it not? Okay. All right. So going to support systems. I really love this one. And by the way, I think next week what I'll do is I will do the self-worth exercise with you guys. Oh, I'm sorry. This is our last one for this month. This is our last one for this month. The next call, we will do the self-worth exercise. And I think that's so apparent, especially during this time of the year, because a lot of people have difficulty with this, especially males. And in my experience, there are so few resources here. For example, if you were to go on your phone right now and Google self-worth exercises, it's like 98% female related exercise. There's nothing for men. Like, the society doesn't care about men at all. It seriously, that's how it feels. So we'll do that exercise because I think it's really powerful. But what I would love for you guys to do right now and right here for today is think about your support systems. Now, the way that I do this is, now this is going to be very different than your circle of influence. And the reason for that is because your support systems may not be in your daily life. They may not even be in your weekly life. You might not even talk to them on a monthly basis. You might only touch base with these people a couple times a year. But we all have people that it's like, man, if I have a dilemma about this, I know who my go-to person is. And that's what we're talking about with this list. So my challenge to you guys is, write your list of 1 to 10. Now, you may have more, you may have less, that's fine. But write your list of people that you can go to in moments of adversity. Here's my example for you guys. And some of you met her on our BMG before, but Carissa, my sister, her and I are super close. There's a huge age gap, though. You know, we're 7 years apart. And I know that if I have an emotional dilemma, anything where I'm reactionary, anything I want to process or work through, I can reach out to her. We can have a solid conversation where I can be 100% vulnerable and transparent with her, and she can do the same with me, of course. But that's one of my support system people. Now, if I needed to have a conversation about running a business, about scaling, about efficiency, about market trends, I'm not going to go to Carissa. Love her to death, and she's an amazing support system for me, but she doesn't really have a lot of business acumen. So she wouldn't be my first support system for the business side. So my point in sharing that is, what I like to do is I like to go through my list. And by the way, this changes all the time. So whenever you're in a moment where you need that joy or that happiness or confidence, you literally sit down, and you can do it on a Post-it note. Sit down, write your list, and attack it right away. So my point is, when you do this, you want to write the name of the person. And then after you write their name, write what it is you feel really comfortable talking with them about. So again, for example, it would look something like this: Carissa dash emotional conversation. Boom. That's it. So that way, if I'm going through an emotional situation, I can go back to my list and just say, let me reach out to Carissa. I need her right now. Look, guess what? I text her, I call her, she doesn't answer. No big deal. I've got 9 other people on my list. I go to the next person. Eventually, Carissa will reach back out. Now I have fully brought my circle into the situation. So anyway, what are your guys' thoughts, questions, comments, concerns here?
Well, let me chime in with this. The support system is, speculative and will vary based on the person. So you have to, what you basically talked about, Keegan, where you accentuate their strengths in terms of what they're good at. So even though they may be your support system in one aspect, they may not be your support system in another aspect.
Right.
So you get harness people's strengths of where they're best supporting you, and then obviously, work from there. And also somebody who is somebody you hold in high regard, maybe only the business side, maybe on the personal side, or it could be a hybrid of both. Maybe they're good for some of the support and some of the business side. So you have to know where the cohesion is there with that person, where you connect on different levels, and where you can, both accentuate their, the positives of the other person.
Yeah, you're so right. And I really like what you said there, Matt. It made me think about this. A powerful way to do this in fusing what Matt just said is when you create your list, because this will happen more than once. It's not like, hey, I write a list one time and that's it for the rest of my life. You'll have to update this, right? And some people come and go. Like Mel Robbins said, we have friends that are there for a reason, friends that are there for a season, and friends that are there for a lifetime. So this list will always change. So my point is, and what you brought up for me, Matt, was that it's really powerful if you just simply write the theme at the top of your list. So for example, if you're doing this on a Post-it note, you write the theme at the top, whatever you're seeking help with or guidance or just need to vent about right then and there. And then you write the names and then what that person's going to help you with through that. And then you just reach out to each of these people. So it's a really powerful tool, and it doesn't take a lot of time either.
So I love this tool because I do something very similar to this, and I'm going to be doing a newsletter on it. I call it, this is your board of directors.
Love that.
Your life, right? You're the CEO of your life, the chief executive officer, but this is your board of directors.
That's it.
And I love that. I love that you have the person's name and what it is they give, what they're there for: emotion, business support, financial support, mentorship, whatever it is that they're there for. I love having that distinction. So there's a couple of things that I just add to this. One, you're absolutely right. It changes over time. So revisit this monthly, if you will, or whatever. Also, I could list out all the people in my life, but there may be positions on my board of directors that are not filled yet.
Interesting. That's a good point.
Maybe I need support, a shoulder to cry on, somebody to just listen to me and not give me any advice. I don't have anybody like that. So now I'm looking to fill that seat on my board of directors, just like you would for a board of directors.
I love it.
And then the other way around, if somebody leaves, let's say they move to another country, or like you said, they're just there for a season. Now I have an empty seat, but I still need business support.
That's right.
Who's going to replace it?
Beautiful.
And the next thing I ask everyone to do is, once you create this list, over the next week, contact each one of these people.
That's it.
And let them know, you know what, you're on my board of directors, and I'm going to seek business knowledge from you. When I need business, I'm going to be calling you. And they go, okay, cool. So know that. Let them know that, and let them say, yeah, I'm on. And then also the other thing is, I think you mentioned it, but I make people go through it. Now, what boards do you sit on?
That's it.
Who uses you as a support group?
Beautiful.
Name those people, and what do you contribute to them? So it goes both ways, right? Who's on my board of directors, and then I sit on other board of directors. I support other people. How do I support them, and how do I show up? Make sure that communication of what the support is clear between the two people.
Yeah, that was beautiful, Bob. Yeah. I mean, you brought up a lot of good points again. This kind of reminds me of, when you were talking about this reminds me of the Napoleon Hill exercise, which I'm a massive fan for. It's a very simple visualization technique. And we're not going to go through the whole thing right now. If you guys want to, I'd be more than happy to share it with you. But basically what he does is he sits down and he uses visualization to envision this perfect dinner table in front of him.
Right.
And with his perfect dinner table in front of him, he goes around and he adds whoever he wants to his seat, just like Bob was talking about the board of directors. And so this is extremely powerful, because you can do this independently, and you close your eyes, you're in your room, you go around your table, you ask of the advice for all these people. And I really love that, because you may have somebody on your board in this example. Maybe you have Jimi Hendrix on there. Maybe you have Benjamin Franklin. These can be people that are no longer with us.
Yeah, good
and
point.
The cool thing I like about that is that when you put the energy and effort into that, and like Bob was saying, the seat, and you've defined the seat that needs to be filled, when you put the energy and effort into that through time, you're going to attract that person into your life, which is amazing. I've seen people do this. We've literally written out the people on our list at our table. And then a month later, like there's a specific example. I'm working with this young man, and we did this exercise. 2 weeks later, he had 2 seats that were vacant. He filled both of them with the exact perfect person, just because of doing this exercise and putting that energy out into the world. So, I loved what you said there, Bob. And I think that, spot on.
Another thing you just said, which is really important too, is you might have a person who's no longer living or a fictitious character there
Right.
providing it. And what you do then is you say to yourself, well, what would that person tell me?
That's it.
You
That's
know?
it.
And all of a sudden it just takes you out of it, like what would that person tell me? And you get your answer.
Yeah.
And it's really an interesting exercise to do with people. Just imagine, what would Benjamin Franklin tell me?
Yeah, it allows you to detach
Yes,
emotionally and
yes,
bring a new perspective. And the more perspectives we can bring into our decision-making
that's right.
process, the
That's
more
right.
rational or logical our outcome is.
Right.
So,
Right.
but look, you guys we're killing it. I'm loving this today. I'm loving this group. I'm loving this energy. We've got about 13 minutes left. So I'm gonna crush through these last three. Okay. So, and the cool part is we've talked about all these three. So anybody that's listening to this, I'd be more than happy to go in more depth if there's more videos on this, but these are the final three stages to really create that happiness or joy in your life. So number 4 is you have to have a journal or tracking system. Now, I'm going to be sending this out today, but we did the goal setting last week on the 8th. And basically what that does, it's a perfect breakdown of taking a book like this, something very small. You can pick this up at Walmart, $5-10, and it allows you to journal and track the life that you're building. I have one of these for the gym. I have one of these for personal and professional goals. I highly recommend doing this because here's the thing. I can go back and look at one of my goal books from 2013 and I can see how much I've grown since then. And that boosts your confidence, which then helps
Yeah.
contribute to your joy and happiness, which is the whole point of doing all of this. So not only does this actually help you get closer to your goal because you know where you started, you know what it's going to take to get to that next level, but it also is a really simple way to just boost your confidence. You guys may or may not have heard of David Goggins, but he's got this concept called the cookie jar. I love this concept. The cookie jar is very simple. You can take a literal jar if you want to. You take a literal jar and you can get Post-it notes. You can write it on a napkin, a loose leaf sheet of paper. It does not matter. Anytime you have a major win in your life, you write it down on that small piece of paper. And then guess what you do? You throw it into your cookie jar. And whenever you're having those really difficult days where you just can't find the happiness or joy, you reach into that little cookie jar and you pull out that note and you say, damn, I remember doing that. And then you start to relive that moment and then all the emotions heighten again. It's a really powerful small tool that will help shift your state of mind. So if you're not doing something like this, I highly recommend doing it. Now, some people do this in the form of journaling, which I do like as well, but that can get a little clunky and a little difficult to find, right? If you're doing a journal entry and you're writing pages, you're not going to pinpoint or isolate that one memory. You can pinpoint and isolate that one memory in the cookie jar concept by just simply having it on a small, easy piece of paper. So we don't need to get into all the specifics of SMART goals. You guys already know how to do these, but the point is you must have the SMART goals written down, and then you got to have a journal or tracking progress system. Okay. Any questions or thoughts before we go to 5? Okay, cool. Number 5. This is possibly the most important step. I hear this all the time in different contexts. I hear it on the side of people. They set goals and visions that are so low that they hit them all the time, don't have any other goals, and then they're done. I have other people that set these goals that are so ridiculous, it sounds insane. And then you look back at it and you're like, I actually achieved all that. That's outstanding. And this happens all the time. Like I was talking to, so I bought my dream truck yesterday. Okay. My dream truck. I've talked about this truck since I was a child. And yesterday when we were closing on this, small talk with the originator, and there were all these little touch points, and it's like, we were both talking, we had very similar upbringings, so which was fascinating, but it was like where did you see yourself 5 years in the future? Where did you see yourself 10 years in the future? And I share with this woman, 4 years ago, I was living in a car with my dog in the middle of the winter with no heat. And I did that for almost 6 months, that's crazy. And then I fast forward and think about where I am today. It's completely different. But in order to get from that place for anybody, you got to know what the end result looks like, right? You have to have that picture of the end, and then you just reverse engineer and contribute small doses each day. This is relevant and leads directly back to our definition of success, because like Bob said before, it's not actually about the end result. So when we're talking about this belief and vision, it's not super important that you hit it to an exact T, because it's about the person we become through the process. And that's, I shared this quote, and I'm just going to pull the nugget from it. But when we set these goals and when we go through life attributing to it, it's not about that end result. It's not about the things that it took us to get there. It's not about what we get. It's about conquering ourselves. It's about knowing what we want in life and showing up every day and saying, you know what? I have a lot of reasons why I don't have to do this, but I need to do it, because that's how I gain my success, joy, and happiness. So again, this is one of the most crucial parts. And in my case, I believe that this is probably the biggest first step that you must do. And then you move forward. So, for you guys that are in the audience, or for Bob, Matt, I would really love if, and you don't have to spend a ton of time here, but detail your top 3 goals. Detail the top biggest things that you want to achieve in your life. Okay. Last but not least, and then I'll open it up to you guys because we only have a couple minutes left. This one is so crucial, the victim or victor mindset. And I got to be honest with you guys, this comes up so frequently. I would say most people actually play on the victor mindset on a daily basis. There are some things we do and some things we don't. And this really hit me hard because I went through this finance course, and it was so interesting to me because at the very beginning, the guy gets on and he goes, how many people were taught how to do this in school? Raise your hand. Nobody's hand went up. Most people in that course attributed their lack of financial literacy to the school system. It's not the school system's responsibility. That is taking a victim mindset. That is putting the blame on somebody else. That's devoiding ownership. That is saying, hey, this happened to me, not for me. And so as you go through your journey, you've got to constantly evaluate this mindset. So let's pull all this together, and then I'll open it back to you guys to see if you have any questions. Okay. And this is not necessarily a particular chronological order, but these are the 6 tips that are going to help you to create the journey of your dreams. Number 1, do a circle of influence audit, right? List out the top 5 people in your life, top 5 people being the most time spent, right? Who are the people you spend the most time with? Jot these people down. Then analyze your routine. Is your routine serving you or is it not? Now, again, this is different for every person, but this is always happening. We all have a morning routine. Does it contribute to your definition of success or not? Support systems. Again, we will do the self-worth exercise next call, but with the support systems, this is a very, very easy tool. You're just going to create a list of 1 to 10 or more people that you can reach out to or lean on for specific things. So again, you'll write the name, and then you'll put a little dash and write what they support you with. And then, as Bob mentioned before, you can even put an additional dash and write what you believe you serve them with. And that's a really cool way to start the conversation, by the way, so it's not about us. We could say it like this. Hey, Matt, I was creating the support system list, and you're obviously one of my top 10 people, so I had you on there. Thank you so much for this. Now, I have an idea of what you help me with in my life, but I'm really curious. I wrote this down as something I help you with. Would you agree with that or not? And that's a really cool way to kind of have that conversation and make sure that it's a mutually beneficial relationship. Number 4, you got to have your tracking and journaling system. So again, I'm a huge fan of these tiny little books because you can bring them with you everywhere. They're super cheap. You spend $5 or $10 and you have it for an entire year, and then you're done. It's totally worth it. You'll be driving down the road, or you'll be in a meeting, or you'll be, whatever, and you'll have a little idea pop in your head, and then you just jot it in your book. And that way you capture a lot of this gold. Number 5, you got to have that end destination. You got to know what it looks like. How can you build it if you don't know what it looks like? So you got to have that extreme clarity. Number 6, analyze, are you playing the victim mindset or are you the victor? And this happens all the time. So if you do these 6 things, they will help you to live your definition of success. Any thoughts, questions, comments, feedback, or Mattisms?
Yeah, and basically, for I don't know if Bob, that it's not starting March anymore. It's now pulling a Matt or a Mattism. So I've gone from a noun to a verb. So,
Well, you know that once you become a verb, you're successful. Once the New York Times refers to you as a verb, then you become successful.
yes, well, I've earned the accolade of snide remarks. So.
So any feedback or anything, guys? I mean, you guys are really good on these topics. If I were you, I would just simply print this sheet, fill out each category. It should only take about 5-10 minutes, and then just pick one. Remember, just pick one. Focus on that one that you can enhance or contribute to. So again, if I look at the 6, I would say this is the one that I probably need the most effort towards. Start there, right? Start on that one. Reach out to me if you have questions, but you have a simple system or rubric to start tackling these.
Yeah, it definitely gave me a lot to think about. But as you were speaking, Keegan, I was taking certain notes that were pivotal. And like you have your book, I have my phone, because everything's in Apple Notes. Just makes it easier. So, but yeah, there's definitely a lot to digest here and a lot of good insight. And you definitely give my homework assignment once I get back to Florida. So,
I love it. And one thing really quickly on that note is that, journal entry or tracking was part of that goal acumen. I want to be really, really clear very quickly, because of your point, Matt, that there are 100 different ways to do it. You don't have to just keep a little book. For example, I know we're in this era of efficiency and trying to do it the quickest way possible. You can get your phone and literally voice journal, so you don't ever have to write anything down. You do a quick voice entry. It's quick. You do it for 30 seconds, a minute, minute and a half, whatever. You save it to a Google Drive. And then for the rest of your life, you can go back and look at this stuff, and say, this is where I was on that exact day. I can feel those emotions. Let's change it and move forward. So anyway, I just wanted to emphasize that, hey, look, you don't have to just write these things down. You can do them 100 different ways. Find what's good for you. You just got to do it.
It's 10 o'clock.
I agree. Yeah.
Yep. And for me, the thing that I need to concentrate on, and thank you for it, is to get back down to those fundamentals, the foundation, the health, the spirituality, the non-negotiables every day.
Beautiful.
I want to get back to that because, again, I like Matt, I was away for a couple of weeks, and you get away from it because it's not your normal routine. Yep. Now it's time to get back into the normal routine, which really would help. So I wrote it down. I'm going to take a 30-minute walk today.
Beautiful. Beautiful job.
Every day.
Again, picking one, create an action item, move forward.
You do need to go. We'll be in touch.
All right, guys. Have an amazing day. Thank you for your time. I will see you soon.
All right. Talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.